Okay, I just want to record the discussion. So instead of it, I don't know. You guys can give me some feedback because I'm not real good, obviously, with all this technology kind of stuff. But not necessarily. I'm good with technology, just with the aspect of you know keeping like a clean video, like a nice YouTube video kind of thing. Okay, so Juliet. So what we're discussing right now was this idea of lies, right? Telling lies to your specifically your family or your mom or dad, or keeping the truth. So not necessarily always telling lies, but keeping truth from them, right? So let's talk about Juliet. Juliet, she had an opportunity to tell her parents to be honest up front in the first place. Mom, Dad, I'm not going to look at Paris. As a matter of fact, remember back when Juliet's mom came, Lady Capulet came and said, "Oh, can you look at him?" And then Juliet says, "Yes, I'll look at him." Now, if she would have at that time said, "Mom, I'm a 12-year-old girl, and I'm not going to look at any man to get married to because I have no intentions of ever marrying." If she would have been just straight up and honest with her mom and dad at the time, then we don't get to this point possibly. Next, after Juliet would have said that, then she would have went to the party, right? And when she was there, she might have just left early, or she might have just been not even necessarily caring about the party whatsoever. So she could have just been there just like, this party's pouring or whatever. Now, the other side is Romeo got there on complete accident. Remember, he's walking down the street and he bumps into this guy, this servant of the Capulets. His name's Peter. He's walking down the street, but he can't read. So the crazy part about it is if Peter knows how to read, then he's able to read all the names on the list. And then because of that, he's able just to go to their houses and invite them without even asking Romeo to read the list. Because what happens is Peter bumps into Romeo, and then Peter doesn't even know who Romeo is. He goes, "Excuse me, sir, can you read this list of names for me, please?" And then Romeo says, "Oh yeah, let me see." And he starts reading the name of the list, and then he sees Rosalind's name on the list, who got invited to the party. So he's like, "Oh man, Rosalind's gonna be there. I'm gonna have a second chance with her because she doesn't want to be with me. I'm gonna go again, see her." So we could even go back further from this. When Rosalind, if she would have, essentially allowed Romeo, if they would have hooked up physically, if they would have had sex, then he wouldn't have been looking for anyone else. He would have been satisfied with Rosalind. So if we start thinking about all this story unwinding and so on, if we start almost from the beginning and then kind of jump up to where we're at now, if Romeo would have just had more self-control and not wanted to just hook up with a girl and show his love through a physical way, then he would have been fine, right? But no, he kept pursuing the physical relationship, the intimacy, essentially the one-on-one perspective. As Romeo moves on, he reads that list. He goes to the party. When he goes to the party, he sees Juliet. When he sees Juliet, almost shortly before that, remember, Tybalt sees Romeo and says, "Hey, this is a Montague. I want to go kill him." He tells his uncle, and his uncle's like, "Chill out, man." And so he relaxes, but he still is injured, right? He's still like offended that this Montague would even try to come into this Capulet party. Then after that, we have this kid Romeo who's leaving the party now with his friends Benvolio and Mercutio. And then what happens? He's like, both of his friends are like basically talking smack to him, and he's all like, "Man, I don't want to be around you guys." So he takes off. He sees this big old wall, right? And he's like, "Man, that's the wall to Juliet's house." So he essentially finds a way to jump over that wall. And then when he jumps over it, he lands, and then he looks up and he sees Juliet on the balcony scene, and she's like, Romeo, Romeo, right? And then he's all like, oh my goodness, that's her again. She's right there, right? So she starts talking, and then he eventually butts in, and she's like, who are you? And so on. So he climbs up the tree, he kisses her a couple times, and more, and then he ends up taking off. But that night, because he's right there on her balcony, he wants to like essentially hook up. But Juliet's like, no, there's no way I'm gonna hook up with you unless we're married. And then he takes off to Friar Lawrence's house. Then Friar Lawrence, if you remember, he's all like tripping out because he's like, wait a minute, you just love Rosalind. Who's this new girl? And he's all like, oh, Friar Lawrence, this new girl is Juliet, and she's basically my enemy, right? She's a Capulet, I'm a Montague. And he's like, oh no. But he's like, wait. Friar Lawrence is like, wait, if I marry you guys, then the fighting will go away. So then he decides to marry them, right? And so when that happens, after Romeo leaves to go and talk to Nurse, because it's remember that's the contributing to delinquency of a minor part, where now we have Friar Lawrence going to marry them, and the Nurse, so they're going behind the backs of the parents, not telling anybody, and these are grown-ups, right, doing this, which is Friar Lawrence and Nurse going behind the parents of Montague, the Capulet families. And so we have all this happening when should have this stopped, right? So we're talking about this idea of either keeping the truth from someone or telling lies. And so when a person continues to keep up a lie or keep the truth, it's essentially creating this reality of lies. And so how deep are you as a young person willing to go to cover up your lies? Now, when I teach this class normally, I explain a couple examples of friends and family that I have who lie all of the time. I had someone in my family who, with anything and everything, this person would lie. Even if it was just like, did you brush your teeth? Or why did you spill that jar of, pickles or whatever? Like, I didn't do that. It's like, even it's for the littlest things to the biggest things. And so my point is like those kind of people, you can't like change them. They have to change themselves. But when we're talking about Romeo and Juliet, Friar Lawrence and Nurse, everything's supposedly for the good of everyone else. And so sometimes people lie because they're trying to make it better for others. And so what I want you to think about just in this little time window is, what kind of life do you want to live as a young person and then as you become a man? Because just because you grow up doesn't mean you stop lying. That's the sad part. I'm going to be 40 this July, and man, oh man, you would be surprised. People don't change, man. I mean, I know you have your own parents and you can see them as however way you see them, but I feel like grown-ups, a lot of them that I've met are basically like grown kids with money. Some of them become more mature, but at the end of the day, what I've seen, not with obviously everybody, but with a lot of grown-ups that I know now, is they're selfish. They want to do exactly what they want to do, and they have the money to do it. And if anyone causes trouble with them, that's why there's so many divorces nowadays. 50%, over 50% of marriages end in divorce. So does that tell you? People don't see eye to eye. People don't want to change. They're selfish, right? And so if we're connecting this back to Romeo and Juliet, we have this idea of people, Juliet wanted to do what she wants to do. Romeo wanted to do what she wants to do. Friar Lawrence, well, essentially, he wants to do what he wants to do because he wants to keep the families together. Nurse, she wants to do what she wants to do because she wants Juliet to be happy, right? So there's always these different versions of reality that everyone lives in. But what my point is, if you were just to stop and just be like, all right, what's the problem here? Juliet, you don't need to get married. You didn't even want to get married. So why are you marrying Romeo all of a sudden? Stop right now. Romeo, come here. But see, that's the thing. The sad part is when there's a lot of negativity, like the Capulet and Montague families, they don't really allow for peace and joy to happen. They're the ones bringing the pain and the issues and suffering. And so that's what disrupts communication. So essentially what I'm saying is, if you're going to have like a good life, an honest life, a happy life, you have to confront some of the negative people in your life and let them know how you feel, or else you're always going to be hiding, essentially, and you're never going to be able to live like your fulfilled, true life. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to stop this screencastify.